There is a unique kind of solitude that can only be found late at night, on a long and empty road, with only the crackle and hiss of the radio for company. It's a sound we've learned to ignore, a rushing noise that signifies nothingness, the empty space between stations. But what if it isn't empty? Radio waves are a form of light, invisible rivers of information streaming through us at every moment. They carry our songs, our conversations, our news. They are the spectral lifeblood of our modern world. But these rivers are ancient. The signals of 100 years ago don't just vanish. They travel outwards, growing fainter, journeying into the cosmos. As you turn that dial, you scan through a landscape of noise. The static isn't empty. It's full. It's the sound of distance, of signals too weak to resolve, of a million voices speaking at once, all lost in the great wash of the ether. Every now and then, if the conditions are just right, and the hour is late enough, you might stumble upon something that doesn't belong. A flicker of a melody from a bygone era. A calm, dispassionate voice reading a sequence of numbers into the void. A broadcast that seems to originate from nowhere and is intended for no one you know. The radio in these moments feels less like a receiver for entertainment and more like a sensitive instrument, tuned to the whispers of a world hidden just beneath our own. In this video, we are tuning into those lost frequencies. We are searching for the ghost broadcasts, the phantom stations that live in the static, and the voices that continue to transmit, long after they should have fallen silent. Our first story begins not with a ghost in the traditional sense, but with a ghost of a different sort, a relic of a clandestine world whose secrets still haunt the airwaves. For decades, anyone with a shortwave radio could tune to a specific set of frequencies and hear a sound that was both charming and deeply unsettling. It was an appointment with a phantom, a broadcast that existed on a strict schedule, yet was never announced on any official program. The experience for the listener was always the same. In the minutes leading up to the top of the hour, you would wait in silence, listening to the gentle hiss of the frequency. Then, precisely on the hour, it would begin. The first two bars of an old English folk song, the Lincolnshire Poacher, played on a small music box-like instrument. The melody was simple, almost childlike, a stark and eerie contrast to what followed. After the tune played its short refrain, a woman's voice would emerge from the static. She was crisp, unnervingly clear, with a received pronunciation English accent. And she didn't tell stories or read the news. She read groups of 5 numbers. 12036999742. On and on it went, a stream of code broadcast out into the world for exactly one purpose: espionage. This was a number station, one of the most famous in history, widely believed to be operated by the British Secret Intelligence Service, MI6. The messages were almost certainly intended for undercover agents operating abroad. Using a key known as a one-time pad, the agent could decipher the seemingly random numbers into a secret message, one that was mathematically unbreakable. Listening to the Lincolnshire Poacher felt like pressing your ear to a door you were never meant to open. Overhearing a conversation between giants, a silent war being waged in the quiet corners of the world. For decades, it was a constant, a reliable fixture in the shadowy world of shortwave radio, presumed to be broadcasting from a Royal Air Force base in Cyprus. And then, one day in June of 2008, it simply stopped. The melody didn't play. The voice didn't read her numbers. There was no final message, no sign-off. The frequency that had carried decades of secrets just fell silent. Its end was as mysterious as its operation. Had the technology become obsolete? Had the agents it served been retired, or worse, discovered? The silence it left behind is, in its own way, as loud as the broadcasts ever were. The Lincolnshire Poacher became a true phantom station, its broadcast now existing only in old recordings, a digital ghost of a voice that spoke in a language of pure secrecy. But while the ghost of the Cold War spy has vanished into the ether, leaving behind only an empty frequency, other, more persistent phantoms remain. Some signals don't have the decency to fade away. They linger, broadcasting a single, monotonous sound, day in and day out, for decades. They become a permanent feature of the static, a humming ghost in the machine that has haunted the shortwave bands since 1982. Its name among radio enthusiasts is the buzzer. Its official designation is UVB76. Tune to the frequency 4625 kHz, and you will hear it. A short, grating buzz repeated over and over about 25 times per minute. It's a sound that seems designed to drive you mad, a constant, mechanical presence that has been broadcasting from within Russia almost without interruption for over 40 years. For a long time, its purpose was a complete enigma. But the most chilling theory, and one that has gained significant traction, is that of the dead hand system. In this scenario, the buzzing is an automated signal confirming that the Russian military command is operational. If the signal were to ever stop for a prolonged period, it would be interpreted by an automated system as a sign of a decapitating first strike, a catastrophic attack that has wiped out the chain of command. This would then trigger an automatic and unimaginably devastating retaliatory nuclear launch. The buzzer in this terrifying scenario is the sound of a doomsday machine's heartbeat, patiently waiting. What makes this mechanical ghost truly unnerving are the moments when it wakes up. On rare occasions, the monotonous buzzing will cease, and a live voice speaking Russian will break the silence to read a short cryptic message. Often it's a call sign and a string of words and numbers. UVB76, Mikhail, Dmitry, Zhenya, Boris, 846199273. After the message is read, the buzzing resumes its endless mind-numbing vigil. Listeners have also reported faint, ghostly sounds bleeding through the transmission, distant conversations, a snippet of Swan Lake, a muffled shout, as if the microphone was accidentally left open in a room full of phantoms. In 2010, urban explorers even found one of its former broadcast sites near Moscow, a scene of utter desolation filled with discarded equipment and logbooks detailing its military operations. The buzzer isn't just a signal. It's a place, a history, a constant reminder that somewhere out there, a machine is watching and waiting. The occasional, ghostly voices bleeding through the transmission of the buzzer feel like an accident, a technical glitch that allows us a peek behind the curtain. But what if these voices aren't an accident at all? What if the veil between worlds is thinnest in the chaotic noise of radio static, and all you need to hear the other side is the right kind of radio and the patience to listen? This question led to one of the most controversial fields in paranormal research: electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. The story begins in the 1950s with a Swedish painter and film producer named Fredrik Jürgensen. While attempting to record birdsong in the countryside, he played back his tapes and was startled to hear a faint voice speaking Norwegian, discussing nocturnal bird songs. Believing it to be stray radio interference, he continued his work. But on a later recording, he heard a voice that was unmistakable. It was his deceased mother, calling him by his childhood nickname, saying, "Friedel, my little Friedel, can you hear me?" Shaken but intrigued, Jürgensen dedicated the rest of his life to this research. He would tune a radio to the static between stations and record the sound. Upon playback, he discovered countless voices embedded in the noise, faint, ethereal whispers speaking in multiple languages. This work was later continued and popularized by a Latvian psychologist named Dr. Konstantin Raudive. Raudive refined the method, recording tens of thousands of what he called Raudive voices. These voices were typically short, spoken in a strange rhythm, and often addressed him directly. They were the voices of the dead, he claimed, using the raw energy of the radio static as a medium to speak. Skeptics, of course, dismiss EVP as auditory pareidolia, the brain's tendency to find patterns in random noise, or simply fragments of stray radio broadcasts. But for believers, it is something far more profound. It is instrumental transcommunication, a genuine telephone line to the afterlife. Listening to these recordings is a chilling experience. Amidst the hiss and crackle, you can just make out what sounds like words, like fragments of thought from an unknown place. Whether it's a trick of the mind or a true message from beyond, it transforms the radio from a simple receiver into a potential oracle, and the static from empty noise into a sea of waiting souls. While researchers like Raudive sought to prove the existence of an afterlife with scientific instruments and reels of tape, some ghostly broadcasts require no special equipment at all. They are not found through careful searching, but by sheer accidental chance. They are stories woven into the very fabric of a place. Legends of a signal so tied to a person's soul that it simply refuses to fade away. It's a story that blurs the line between tragic folklore and a genuine paranormal event. This is the legend of the Phantom DJ of WBNY. The story takes place at Buffalo State College in New York. Like many colleges, it had its own student-run radio station, WBNY 91.3 FM. It was a place of passion, a haven for students who loved music and the intimate connection that radio can create. According to the legend, there was a popular student DJ in the late 70s or early 80s. Some versions of the tale call him Steven. He was utterly devoted to his late-night show, where he played progressive rock and spoke to his small but loyal audience with a warmth that made them feel like they knew him. But the station was facing challenges. The university decided to shut it down, or perhaps just automate its systems, rendering the live DJs obsolete. Steven was devastated. On the station's final night of live broadcasting, he poured all of his grief and passion into one last show. He played his favorite songs, shared memories, and signed off with an emotional farewell to the listeners who had become his friends in the dark. What happened next is where the story turns tragic. In some tellings, overcome with despair, Steven took his own life inside the studio after the broadcast ended. In others, he died in a tragic car accident on his way home. Either way, his voice was silenced forever, or so everyone thought. Years passed. The frequency 91.3 FM in Buffalo went through changes, but strange reports began to surface. People driving late at night, scanning the radio dial, would sometimes land on the old frequency and hear something impossible. Faintly, through a wall of static, they would hear a radio show. It was a man's voice, playing the same kind of music Steven used to play, speaking with that same familiar warmth. It was, by all accounts, his final, heartbreaking broadcast. Echoing through time, a phantom signal from a station that no longer existed, hosted by a DJ long since gone. A ghost, trapped in the medium he loved, forever signing off, but never truly leaving the air. From the coded messages of silent spies to the unblinking eye of a military machine to the scientific search for voices in the noise and the sorrowful echo of a DJ who never left his booth. The airwaves are filled with more than just our songs and our news. They are a vast, invisible ocean, and in their depths, strange currents flow. These phantom signals remind us that not everything that is gone is truly lost. Sometimes it's just waiting on a forgotten frequency, broadcasting its story into the static. Perhaps the static isn't noise at all. Perhaps it's a library of every voice that ever spoke into a microphone, every song that ever played, every secret that was ever whispered across the wires. An archive of human consciousness, floating in the dark. And maybe, if you are listening at the right time, in the right place, you will hear them. So the next time you are driving alone in the dark, turn the dial slowly. Listen past the noise. You never know whose voice you might find, waiting for you in the silence between stations.